guys, we are going full on Indo-Chinese restaurant vibes today with my ultimate recipe for veg Manchurian. This is something that you have been requesting over and over and over and over again, and I have been saying, yeah, I'm gonna get to it, I'm gonna do it, and I've finally come up with a recipe that I'm really happy to share with you. Now there are two parts to this recipe, the first being the kofta themselves, and they're made up of loads and loads of shredded veggies, and then the second part is the sauce, and that is where all the flavour is gonna be. I know a ton of you are gonna ask, can I bake my kofta? And for this recipe, I'm gonna say no. These really need to be fried. The texture of these kofta is light and airy, and if you want to bake them, you're gonna end up with like a splodgy mess all over your baking tray, and it's just not gonna look very pretty. And the key to any good Manchurian is to make sure that your ratio of vegetables to flour is in favor of more vegetables. The flour is really just there to kind of give it some structure so that it has the ability to stick together once it's cooked. So if you want to do a baked version of a Manchurian, you're gonna have to add a ton more flour, and that is gonna change the recipe measurements entirely in terms of seasonings and flavors. So if you are after a baked Manchurian recipe, this is not the one for you. It's definitely worth the little bit of deep frying that you have to do to get these nice airy light kofta, and they are just so crispy. And so for the kofta that are going to go into our Manchurian, we need a mix of vegetables that have been really finely chopped. So here I've got some cauliflower, some cabbage, some carrots, spring onion, ginger, fresh coriander, and some salt. And then in order to bind all of this, we're going to need some kind of flour. So in my little bowl here, I've got a mixture of corn flour and plain flour, and that corn flour is going to make these kofta really lovely and crispy. And in addition, we're going to need some ingredients to make our lovely Manchurian sauce, which is where all of that amazing Indo-Chinese flavor is going to be. So in order to do that, we first need some oil, and then to that I'm going to add some red onions I've got here that I've just cut into petals, some mixed peppers, you can just use one color of pepper if you want, some garlic, and lots of garlic. Don't skimp on the garlic in this recipe, we really need it for that delicious restaurant style flavor. I also have some chilli and some dark soy sauce. You can use light soy sauce if you want, and then I also have some tomato puree here. And then to season our sauce, I've just got some things on my little plate here. So I've got some white pepper, you can use black pepper if you want, some salt, some sugar, some vinegar, and I also have a little bit of MSG. So just use your own discretion and choose what's right for your family. I mean, I don't mind using a little bit of MSG here and there, but that is completely up to you, and it's an optional add-in to this dish just for that delicious restaurant style flavor. And to keep our kofta for the Manchurian really nice and light, I'm just going to add a little bit of baking powder as well. In addition to all of this, we're going to need some vegetable oil or sunflower oil or rapeseed oil, whatever kind of frying oil that you want to use for these kofta. Once our sauce is cooked, we're just going to have to thicken it up a bit, and the way to do that is to add a little bit of cornstarch to a little bit of water, and I'm using cold water here, and we're just going to give this a mix. And this is called a slurry, and it's traditionally used in lots of Indo-Chinese and Chinese dishes just to thicken the sauces so that they have that really nice glossy silky smooth finish. So we're just going to mix this up now. I have all of my fresh ingredients in my bowl here, my cauliflower, cabbage, carrots, spring onion, ginger, and coriander leaves. And to that I'm going to add a little bit of salt, and then I have some flour here, and in my flour I have corn flour and plain flour, and I've mixed my baking soda into that already, so all I'm going to do is just dump all of that in there. The key to a good Manchurian is to make sure that you have more vegetables than you have flour. So we're not making like pakora or bhajia here where we want a batter that has more batter than veggies. It's a vegetable mixture that we just need to have bound correctly with the right amount of flour. So essentially that flour is literally just our binding agent. So just give this like a really good squeeze, and we want to get all of that natural water out of those veggies, and then the flour that we added is going to help bind it. I've been mixing this for a couple of minutes now, and as you can see, those vegetables have released a ton of water, and that's what's bound our mixture into kind of like a soft, like dropping consistency. Okay, so I've got some oil heating up in my pan here. I'm just using a wok for this, and this is just sunflower oil, and it needs to be over a pretty high heat just to heat it up quickly. And what we're going to do is deep fry these now. So I'm going to make sure that my oil is at the correct temperature. About 160 to 180 is perfect for this. We don't want them to be cooked in too high a heat, because remember, we've got some flour in here that needs to be cooked out as well. So I'm going to take a little bit of oil in my hands, and that is going to act as a little slippery surface so that this batter doesn't stick to my hands. And then I'm going to take a little portion of it, just less than a tablespoon. You don't want them to be too big, and just really carefully, just gently roll it in my hands into a little ball like that. And then really carefully we just drop it in our hot oil, and I'm going to continue doing that for all of these. So just have my little hand greased and ready, and then take a bit of the batter and again just roll it into a nice little ball. And if you want a nice even golden coating all over, you can do this little trick here. And if you just use a perforated spoon and just like bounce it, they will automatically kind of surround that spoon and then turn really evenly. And that will make sure that the surface of your kofta for this Manchurian are really nicely, evenly golden brown. So I've got my wok heating up now. I've got a steel wok here, and as you can see, it is smoking hot, which is really important. We need to make sure our wok is really hot, and then just add some oil to that. And very quickly now, we want to add our garlic and just give it a little saute. It shouldn't take longer than a couple of seconds to just start kind of getting a little bit golden. You don't want it to turn brown or black, just a little bit toasty. And then immediately after that, I'm going to add in my tomato puree and give it all a nice stir. So now this has been cooking for a couple of seconds. I'm going to immediately add in all the rest of my ingredients. So I've got my red onions, my peppers and some chilli, and just give that a really nice kind of stir fry so that it all starts kind of catching and turning a really nice shade and giving off a nice aroma. So as you can see, a little bit is kind of catching on the bottom. As long as it's not turning black, that's great, because that's all flavour. And we're going to deglaze this pan. This kind of burning on the bottom is called the fond. And when we add some water, that's going to deglaze it and lift it all off. And that's what's going to give our Manchurian that really delicious kind of Chinese restaurant feel to it. This has been cooking for no more than 2 minutes now, and then I'm going to add in my vinegar, a a little bit of MSG, which is optional, and then some white pepper, some sugar and some salt. And then I'm immediately going to add my soy sauce as well. Give it all a really good mix. And you can see that that fond is starting to build up at the bottom there. So now what we want to do is add just a little bit of water, and depending on how saucy you like your Manchurian, you can adjust the level of water. I like it kind of medium. I don't want it to be like swimming in sauce, and I don't want it to be super dry either. So I'm going to show you how I do that. Just give it a nice mix. So very quickly, I'm just going to show you, I'm going to mix my cornflour slurry just a little bit, and as you can see, my Manchurian sauce is starting to thicken up a little bit. So at this stage we want to really gently, little bit by little bit, add in our slurry, and just add a spoonful at a time. You don't need to add the whole amount, and just give it a mix and see how it's thickening up. And if it seems cool to you and you're happy with that thickness, then just add as much as you've added. If not, you can add a bit more and thicken it up a tad more, and that's going to depend on how much water you've added to this as well. If you've got a lot of water in there, you're going to have to add a bit more of the slurry to thicken it up. This is looking good to me. I might just add, I think I'm going to add the whole amount here, so I'll just kind of pop that in there, and this is nicely thickening now. We've got a lovely sauce in there. Once it turns a nice translucent kind of color and it's nice and shiny, we are ready to add in our Manchurian balls we fried earlier, and I'm just gonna tip them all into this sauce and give it a really nice kind of mix, gently, just to coat everything. I'm not gonna be too rough with it. I just want it to be nice and coated. Coat it really beautifully. And now this is all ready. All we need to do now is just finish it off with a little bit of chopped spring onion for our garnish. And we are ready to serve this nice and hot while those Manchurian balls are nice and crispy still. You guys are gonna love this recipe. There's lots of prep work to do, but once it's done, it all comes together really quickly in the pan, so give it a go. You'll absolutely love it. If you wanna be fancy, you can serve it on a sizzler like this. My Manchurian is now ready to serve. It's looking really beautiful and golden and glossy, and that has just the right amount of sauce in it for me. If you want to make it a bit more saucy, then just add some more water and some more cornflour slurry and you will have the perfect sauce. I hope you try this recipe and enjoy it. It's a really good one if you've got friends or family over, or if you're having an Indo-Chinese night at home. I very quickly wanted to show you the inside of these Manchurians as well. They're so crispy and packed full of veggies. And that, my friends, is how easy it is to make your own vegetable Manchurian, just like they do in your favorite takeaways, in your favorite restaurants. So next time you're having an Indo-Chinese night, you need to make sure that you crack on with this recipe.